1959, 9 hikers entered the frozen Ural Mountains and never returned. A lone tent stood on a steep snowy slope, battered by the wind. The fabric shook violently under the icy gusts, as if warning of impending doom. Dark storm clouds raced across the sky, blotting out the moon, while the jagged ridge disappeared into white fog, swallowing the horizon. Half-buried footprints glimmered faintly under the pale moonlight. The young Soviet hikers were excited, unaware of the dangers ahead, with Igor Dyatlov leading the expedition, his face tense under the cold. An old topographic map showed their intended route through the mountains. They skied in single file through deep snow, their silhouettes fading into the white wilderness, heavy boots cutting clean lines into the icy ground. Gloved hands gripped compasses, needles trembling slightly. Journal pages fluttered as the wind whipped through the camp, and a vintage camera hung from a frost-covered backpack. The forest trail was narrow and swallowed by snow and fog, while the mountain valley stretched wide under pale winter daylight. The expedition tent was pitched on a slope as night fell. The hikers prepared food, their breath rising in the cold air, and steam rose from metal cups, mixing with the night fog. Journal entries were written carefully under a lantern's dim glow. Lanterns glowed softly inside the tent, casting long shadows as the hikers sat together, unaware of the storm growing outside. Snow began falling heavier, the wind screaming across the slope. By nightfall, the tent glowed faintly in the blizzard. Days passed, but the hikers did not return. Families waited anxiously indoors, watching the snowstorm rage. A massive snowstorm covered the mountains in white. Rescue teams prepared equipment for the treacherous journey, while helicopters flew over the frozen terrain searching for any signs. Searchers finally spotted the abandoned tent from a distance. The tent was slashed open as if something had forced its way out. Boots were neatly lined outside, covered in frost. Food supplies were untouched, suggesting they left suddenly. Flashlights revealed the torn tent wall, eerie and silent. Inside, the tent was empty and disturbed. The campsite was silent, snow drifting over the area. Bare footprints pressed into the icy snow, leading into darkness. And some footprints wore only socks, with no shoes. The trail led downhill into a dense, dark forest, eventually fading completely. The forest stood silent, trees swaying in the cold wind. Searchers discovered the first bodies near a tree. Frostbitten hands rested near a small, extinguished fire. Broken branches above suggested a struggle had occurred. Searchers examined the scene silently, their breaths visible. Flashlight beams cut through the fog and falling snow. Frost-covered clothing was scattered nearby. The forest was quiet again, snow falling gently. More bodies were found, some in ravines. X-ray visuals revealed severe injuries, non-graphic but horrifying. Skull fractures were evident in some victims. Medical documents spread under harsh light, telling the story. Clothing revealed traces of radiation in some cases. A frozen stream ran through the ravine nearby. Searchers dug desperately through deep snow. Discovery moments froze everyone in shock. Case files were later sealed by authorities. Documents were stamped, classified, and hidden from public view. Typed reports summarized the grim findings. The case folder was closed, never to be opened again. Theories emerged. Avalanches, secret military experiments, or something unknown. Some pointed to distant military lights in the night sky. Others considered sound waves or infrasound causing panic. Human fear under extreme stress may have driven them to flee. The wind across the ridge was violent and unrelenting. The tent appeared to shake in the storm as if alive. Silhouettes ran across snow in desperate flight. Radar-like overlays hinted at mysterious forces. Eventually, the mountains were left empty and silent again. The abandoned tent stood alone under falling snow. Footprints vanished into nothing, leaving no trace. The forest remained frozen and still. Wind whispered through the trees. Snow slowly covered the tracks left behind. Lonely mountain ridges loomed under dark clouds. Snow eventually buried the tent completely. The mountain stood silent at pale gray dawn. Wind finally calmed, leaving frozen stillness. Clear skies stretched over the empty horizon. The vast horizon remained empty, a chilling reminder. The mystery of their fate remains unsolved to this day.